To discuss Keir Starmer's leadership of the Labour Party thus far, I'm joined by Tom Baldwin, author of the biography of the Labour leader, a former Labour advisor, and Rosa Prince, deputy editor of Politico UK and author of Comrade Corbyn, a biography of Starmer's predecessor. Good evening to you both. Tom Baldwin, when he went for the leadership, he made his 10 pledges on his website. The 10 pledges are still there, but the 10 pledges are not quite as they seem now, looking back. We know things that we don't know. Obviously, the green prosperity one is the main one, but we've got possible renationalisation of water. We've got 5% for the top earners in the country in terms of income tax. You know, things have come and gone in the last 4 years, have they not?
Yep, and I think some of the bits of the 10 pledges are still there if you look closely.
No, they're not. They're just not there anymore. They've all gone.
Enough, and I think sometimes people look for what's gone rather than what's still there.
What's still there? Literally any. Find me something on that list that's still there.
But yeah, of course things have changed. And Starmer talks about how you've had COVID and you've had Ukraine and you've had Liz Truss. Mm-hmm. And if you don't change...
And none of those things necessarily mean any different to the way in which those principles were laid out in the pledges. Okay, the idea that, Liz Truss happened and now the government's finances are screwed over, so now we can't afford to tax the rich. That's nonsense. If anything, all of the economic screw-ups of the Conservatives for the past year, for the past 2 years, for the past 3 years, all of those make the case for all of the pledges that he originally made much more than they would have been previously.
When the facts change, you're not really like most rational people. There's something we expect of political leaders that we don't expect of ourselves, which is to stick by everything they've said 4 years ago, come what may, no matter how much the facts change. But he made those
pledges in order to get elected as Labour leader. That was what he was promising the party.
Yeah, but I don't think he was predicting you were going to have COVID, Ukraine and Liz Truss. Look, if you want...
Again, none of these make any difference to whether or not he can stick to those pledges or not. None of them make any difference whatsoever. You're just nonsense to say that. Again, he never even qualifies this. He just says, COVID, Liz Truss, Ukraine. It's like the centrist version of iPhone 100 million vuvuzela. It's literally as COVID, Ukraine happened, so all good things off the table. No more good things allowed because of COVID, Ukraine and Liz Truss. There you go, guys.
People talk about trust, and I think there are some people who voted for Keir Starmer because of the 10 pledges, and they have every right to be fed up, and I understand that. But there is also trust with a wider group of people. And if you go into elections saying you're going to spend all this money, which you know you can't spend, and do all these things which you...
Why don't you tax the rich then? Literally, the very first pledge is taxing the rich, which would give them money to spend.
No, you can't do. I don't think you're going to build trust with the electorate. And that's a choice he's made.
So then, Rosa Prince, what happens? Is it a possible Keir Starmer government where he kind of slips in the back door of number 10 and then thinks about a few things that won't rock the boat?
Yeah, I think Keir Starmer's trick throughout his career really has been to be incredibly single-mindedly focused on the next task in hand.
Or the next Keir Starmer.
Or the next Keir Starmer, indeed. So those pledges were to get him through that leadership election and job done. The next task...
So it was a sleight of hand?
I think he just sort of, as I said, almost kind of sets himself some homework and then completes it and ticks it off.
Oh, yeah, how funny, yeah. Well, turns out, guys, he is a liar. Then they just admit it straight open, laughing and joking. How isn't it funny how he just changed himself afterwards? They're all lies. He knew they were all lies, but he just had the task of getting himself elected, and it didn't matter what he lied about or who he lied to. He lied about taxing the rich. He lied about nationalising water and energy. He lied about abolishing universal credit. He lied about ending NHS privatisation. He lied about the voting on military action. He lied about free movement as we leave the EU. He lied about internal party democracy. He lied about abolishing tuition fees. He lied about reforming our asylum system. He lied about the right to disconnect. He lied about abolishing the House of Lords. He lied about the immediate recognition of a Palestinian state. He lied about implementing the recommendations of the Ford report. He lied about proportional representation. He lied about the two-child benefit gap. He lied about taxing big tech. And he even lied about stupid stuff like whether or not he considered Jeremy Corbyn a friend and a colleague. He lied and lied and lied and lied and lied. And these people just think it's a funny joke because as long as you're attacking the left, lies are fine. It's not a problem. You are persona non grata, your political opinions are unwarranted, and you're happy to be taken for a ride. And these people will laugh about it and then wonder why there is so little trust in politicians and journalists these days. We just ejected the Prime Minister of this country, Boris Johnson, on grounds of the fact there was a serial liar who continued to lie with complete impunity and nobody ever pulled him up on it because we're recognising that lying is wrong. The journalists didn't like him. He suddenly became irrelevant to their broader goals, so they got rid of him as soon as they realised that they could. Keir Starmer is now in their good books. They won't call out his lies. It's as simple as that. Whether you're lying in terms of narcissism or whether you're lying in service of Machiavellianism, it's all lies at the end of the day. And I will say this like I do every single time this comes up. He lies to his own party brazenly, and everybody openly admits it. What makes you think he won't lie to you? What makes you think he won't lie when he tries to get elected at the general election? This is a man who is deceitful with every single breath that he takes, deliberately and maliciously. And to these people, it's just a game. When it's our lives that get affected by this. The political process relies on trust. But of course, that doesn't matter to these people, because all they care about is whether or not they're going to be in the lobby at the end of the day. That's the only thing that matters to these people. And so they're happy to just laugh it away.
Now the job is to get into government, and so far he's being dazzlingly successful, if the polls are to be believed. That job of being leader of the opposition, that the most important thing is...
So it's fine, we might lie to the public now, that's fine, because he's just achieving the job of getting himself elected Prime Minister. Yeah, that's a really good point, Elron. Like, I wonder if Keir Starmer had written, "I will abolish universal credit" on the side of a bus. Do you think the press would have let him get away with it then? Do you think?
As Jeremy Corbyn, as Ed Miliband found to their cost, is to actually win that election to get into government. He's doing brilliantly, it would seem, at that. What happens next? What happens when he's Prime Minister? I think that is the question.
Yeah. It is, what I was saying earlier, you could be lucky.
That is the question. I wonder if anybody from our lobby journalists will ever hold him to account for any of it, given that he's the darling of our journalist class. Or they love him so much because he's so sensible and centrist and part of the establishment. But these guys got what they wanted, and they destroyed everybody who got in their way. Sturgeon, Johnson, Corbyn, all persona non grata, have no position in politics anymore, and it's because journalists decided that they shouldn't be allowed to be anymore. It's as simple as that. Should Boris Johnson have been allowed to get to that position in the first place? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But you have to understand, it was only when he was not relevant to their interests anymore that they decided to eject him. It's as simple as that.
With your enemy, and of course, in these straitened times for the Conservatives, is actually the best policy of the strategists working with Keir Starmer to say as little as possible. Will that wash right through the election campaign?
I'm not sure I accept the premise of the question. He spent a lot of last year setting out these 5 missions about what he wanted to do in government, which were widely ignored by most of the media, who asked him questions about all kinds of other things apart.
But that's not true. I literally on stream reacted to Beth Rigby deliberately asking Keir Starmer, "You have these 5 missions, but you will not tell us how you're fucking going to achieve them." And what did he do in response? Just repeated the 5 missions again. This idea that the missions are being ignored by the media, all they do is talk about biggest growth in the G7 every single time. These people live in fantasy land. They live in a different reality.
From his 5 missions, and at the end of it, people said, "We still don't know what you want to do."
But also at the Labour Party conference, the Green Prosperity Plan was front and centre. It was everywhere, and look, it just disappeared. Well, obviously we've still got the roots of it, but not the flowers, not everything else.
Yeah, I mean, people put a lot of emphasis on this single number, 28 billion, which wasn't a policy, it was a number. Yeah. It wasn't a mission,
it was a good idea to have a number.
I think it's bad politics back in 2021 to announce a big number, which you say you're going to spend in 3 years, no matter what. I don't think that's good politics. And what it meant was, every time they went into a TV interview like this, all they would do was talk about 28 billion, rather than talk about what they actually want to do about getting clean energy by 2030. And there's a lot of policy still there.
Yeah, it's almost like if you want clean power by 2030, you're going to have to spend money. Crazy, I know. The fact that even 28 billion was too much when it was way behind what we actually needed, and even that got scaled back, is really funny to me.
Do you want to talk about that?
Tell me, where do you think the dangers for a possible Keir Starmer government lie? As I was saying, you might have, massive backbench. You've also got divisions with Scotland over the 2-child benefit policy, over different policies in Scotland. And you might actually, according to these mega Survation polls, not do quite as well in Scotland as he thinks he might. Where will the danger lie on the backbenches? As I was saying, it's 14 years. A lot of them, particularly on the left, are itching to do things that he might not actually think it's prudent to do.
Yeah, I mean, the party is broadly quite disciplined at the moment. I mean, you've had Gaza, where there were some problems, which showed
and missteps.
And
Just some problems with the leader of the opposition endorsing war crimes.
Steps, and I think it definitely showed that there doesn't seem to be that level of affection between the leadership and his MPs, as, for example, Tony Blair had. I mean, if you spoke to any MP in that 1997 intake, they were loyal to the core. It doesn't seem to have that sort of close affinity, perhaps because of what they saw as the way he got to the leadership and where he had been before that leadership election.
But actually, to Tom's point, you can talk about figures and all that, but actually when it came to the by-elections, why was he not sure-footed over that, Tom?
Over Gaza or Israel. I think he has made mistakes, and that was one of them. I think he didn't know a great deal about the Middle East peace process before. He knows quite a lot about foreign policy. He's got quite a lot of foreign policy experience. That was a gap for him. What's interesting about him, I think it explains a lot of his leadership over the last 4 years, is when he does screw up, he works, he thinks, how do I correct this? How do I make sure that doesn't happen again?
Yeah, what he does to correct it is by pretending it never happened. By either lying deliberately, say, no, I didn't indeed say that I endorsed war crimes and LBC with Nick Ferrari. No, I didn't say that Jeremy Corbyn was a friend and indeed a colleague. I'm going to put that right by just pretending it never happened and taking the opposite position as if nobody fucking notices because they think we're stupid and the journalists don't report on it.
Other leaders tend to double down behind their mistakes. And I think one of the interesting things about him, which I talk a lot about in my book, is how he seeks to rectify problems. I sometimes draw this analogy of Keir Starmer, that you see a man standing alone in a field, still for a moment, then he moves forward a step, then he takes 2 steps to the left, 1 step back, 1 step to the right, 2 steps forward, and you think, what is he doing?
Well,
he's crossing a minefield. And we're used to politicians charging forward.
I mean, there's no minefield. You're against the most hated government in living memory. It's really not difficult.
And getting blown up. He's looking at how to get to the other side. I think he's got a better chance of it than most people because of that.
He may have a better chance than most people, but actually, after a very short period of time, if he doesn't deliver for those people, then it's not going to be such a rosy story for him. And I wonder if you think there is ever going to be such a thing as Starmerism.
From what we can see, no. He seems to me a classic pragmatist. He's almost a Theresa May or even a Rishi Sunak in the way
That's
that...
a big insult.
I mean, well, he literally is. Like, wow, what's different about them in terms of policy? Like,
I think that Keir Starmer's view of himself is that he's a good guy. He probably is a good guy, and that he's a bright man.
true. Good guys regularly endorse war crimes on the radio. Good guys regularly just lie brazenly, as you have already admitted in this explicit segment. You've already openly said that he is happy to lie to people to get what he wants. Oh, he's just a good guy. He's just a good guy. Just a good guy. Nothing wrong with that at all.
And then he thinks he can pull the levers of state better than other people. I don't think he has a big vision for what he should do once he's there.
Thank you both.
Hey there, if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment. That helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description. And if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for membership to just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.